Play it loud and play it proud. I'm feeling good on a Thursday. A little Milli Vanilli to set the tone for the boys.
I'm done. I quit.
Did I just watch what I watched?
You just watched what you watched. Now, the Lions win, right? Credit to the Lions. They keep winning, but Hayes and Bro also win because the Bears cover the 9.5. What an afternoon.
Okay, so how do you let the clock run out? Like I don't know what's going on. I can't wait for
He doesn't care, Noodles. He doesn't care.
I couldn't care less if the Bears won, went to overtime. It's completely irrelevant. I'm sitting there watching the game all afternoon. My wife's like, who do you want to win? I'm like, you got to understand, I don't care who wins. Right. I want the Bears to cover. I don't care if the Lions win, the Bears win. I guess I would have preferred the Bears winning because then I keep the illusion alive that maybe the Packers could catch Detroit and win the NFC North. But what a comeback. What a backdoor. It's +4 for Hayes and Bro.
Dude, I got to be honest. Like, when I asked that question in the football-only group chat, I was somewhat shocked we did not take the Bears. Like, I was somewhat shocked.
You two were flip-flopping. Remember, Luke came out and was pushing the Bears, and then he said, nah, I'm kidding, I'm taking the Lions. And there was some confusion. And in the end, we said, final answer, you locking this in? And you and Luke said, absolutely.
Maybe we have to review the tape on that one because I'm just not sure.
I don't see it happening.
I always remember you said it a lot since I've been working with you. Divisional game, it doesn't matter. Like, if a team's really good and they're playing a piss-poor team, divisional game seems to change things.
Yes, it does.
I'm defeated, man. I'm defeated. I don't know how you guys came back from a +9 deficit. Because I'm defeated right now. I feel hopeless. I feel like Milli Vanilli. I deserve the comments. And I want to pack it in. I want to quit. I hate it.
Wow.
I hate it.
So what's the score now? Where are Hayes and Bro? Like
we're
is it
+4. We're
+4 now.
Yes.
We went from -8 to +4. That's a 12 banger.
I think we were
-9
at the height of the summit. Like when it was really ugly and we were
put them on waivers.
frauds and and Al's brother was like on an ayahuasca retreat and really embarrassing himself. It's a big swing. And we still got Cowboys Giants, Luke coming up in about 15. We got the Packer game tonight. We've got a game tomorrow, so Al's brother will be a part of this ride in about 20 minutes. I can't wait to see what's on his mind in 20 minutes because we've got Chiefs Raiders tomorrow. So more picks later this hour. And it's a very, very thankful day. I think that's the way to put it. I'm thankful to be in here with you guys talking football and watching the Bears backdoor cover the way they just did. And we'll tee up the other two games. It was a fun afternoon. The Lions picked up the win. Shabuzi doing the halftime show. And I was asking my wife about this. Like, do you think – I don't know the background of the whole name, but is he thinking maybe I should have gone with a different handle now that I've exploded and I'm so popular? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you want to be Shabuzi for the rest of time? And because this guy's got some big hits, like that I don't even know the name of it. Yeah, Another Shot of Whiskey. That's been number one on the country and pop hits and hits 100, all that.
Dude, once you go with the name,
I know, but that's a tough name. Yeah, but okay, so. He probably was like, I don't know his history, but he was probably like a streamer 10 years ago. Was like, I'm going to be Shabuzi or whatever. And now he's got to change his name. Like, he's got to change it to something. I don't know what it is.
I think it's a play. Someone's sending me a note here and I'm reading it. I think it's a play off the pronunciation of his last name.
Well, fair enough,
he is it's not the exact way of spelling it, but he's kind of playing off the last name. So that would make some sense. But I was thinking about that today. I'm like, I wonder how this guy feels about blowing up. And because there's been a lot of acts over the years that have had names and then they become hugely popular. And you're like, why did you go with that name? Like bands and different things. And then they become
my buddies
popular.
Hootie and the Blowfish, like that, they probably kind of just came
Darius
up
Rucker.
with that. Yeah.
Right.
I'll never forget, I played with a guy that went up to Darius Rucker and said, hey, Hootie, nice to meet you. And he's like, dude, my name's not Hootie. And I wanted to kick him right in the shins because it was like,
What else would you call him, though? I would have assumed the guy's name was Hootie.
The guy doesn't go by Hootie. It's not like that's his first. Like, they don't call him Hootie. His name is Darius Rucker. And when he said that, I was like, you're trying to big league it, like you're trying to be around cool people, and he's like, Hootie, how's it going? And he's like, no, that's not my name.
Not doing it, man.
No
Not doing
way,
it.
man.
It's different if you – I told you guys this. I was on a pub crawl in L.A., and I called the guy Urkel. But, like, remember, like, Jaleel is his real name.
Yes.
But I was calling him Urkel
Yeah.
the whole night. He hated my guts, and today I still – if he saw my face, I still feel like he would attack me. Like, I badgered him the whole night. I was such an idiot. I felt so bad. But
Well,
of course
because
I'd
of
had
the
a million
nature of
drinks.
the character, right? Like, because
Right.
remember later in, I think, Family Matters, I believe was the name of the show, he tried to become the cool guy again because he's like, I don't want to be Urkel forever. I don't want to be typecasted like that. I'm an
He got to an age where he hated Urkel. I thought of Urkel recently because when Tracy McGrady's in that Razor commercial, when he looks into that camera, he looks like Steve Urkel.
He's got a little bit of Urkel going on. He does.
When he's like, hey, Grady, and he looks like Steve. I looked and I'm like, that's an Urkel move.
He does. It was Screech, the same thing, Saved by the Bell. Where
Screech turned into like a porn star.
He got into some weird stuff. Like Screech had a really dark, like really weird stuff. But remember, there was that great line in the movie Made, I think it was. It was Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau, where the two of them are like, you know, they're trying to be gangsters or whatever, and they're trying to get into this club, and the bouncer's not letting them in. And then Dustin Diamond was the guy's real name. He walks in and gets in, and Vince Vaughn's like, you let Screech in? We can't get in. Screech is getting into the club, like starts yelling at Screech. Because, you know, that was probably you and Urkel. Like, you'd hear it. You're like, Screech is in there. I can't get in there, but you have Screech in there.
100%.
I can't
But imagine
that.
being Screech with his, like, talent agent, and they send him that, and it's like, you're getting goofed on. Do you want to take the part? And he was probably like, sure.
I'll take it. For 10 grand for the day, I'll take it. If they can pay in cash, I'm in.
Exactly.
So anyway, we got a big hour here. Luke Willson coming up. We've got Ray coming on today in an hour. The whole NHL is obviously quiet today. We had 15 games in the league yesterday. And the Leafs ran into one, which this is kind of like football picks. So I was thinking about it after the game. How often you make a losing pick and you look back and think, how did I not see that one coming?
Yes.
You know, and it's not that we were predicting the Leafs would win. Neither of us predicted that. I didn't necessarily think they would. But it's not at all surprising it played out the way it played out. Yeah. Where Florida has been losing. Paul Maurice hasn't been happy. The Leafs have been tying things together with tape and with glue, and they got all these injuries, and Florida just leaned on them last night.
That one was sitting on the top burner for a while, and it came down to the regular heat and just got lit on fire. It was sitting there waiting, and I don't know where I thought this or said this, but it's like during the season there's ups and downs, and there's different avenues to kind of attach yourself to for success. Sometimes you're attaching it to Austin Matthews on a heater, and he can kind of take you through a 10-game streak where it's like he's on fire. It's the Austin Matthews show. Other times, the last 8, it's been Mitch Marner, William Nylander in goaltending, and some young guys sprinkled in. And they kind of had their 10-game segment where it's like, that was this little segment of the schedule. Now it's like maybe let's get a reboot and let's get back to normal. Let's get back to a full lineup and see what that can do for us in the next kind of phase of the season.
Well, I'm sure you guys heard Marner's postgame. I actually really appreciated the way Marner attacked kind of the commentary about the team and the thought process of the team. And I was actually taken aback a little bit because I've always found Mitch to be uncomfortable with the media. Really, like somewhat uncomfortable, always, I don't know, it just felt like he wasn't sure of what he was supposed to say or how he was supposed to say it. And I thought his commentary after the game last night was very honest, very accurate, but also I thought really good message sending in terms of where the team is at and kind of a Craig Berube whispering in the background type of approach. Here was Marner with the media after the game being asked about how it played out and all the injuries that they've been suffering lately.
I mean, we're missing half our team up front, man. You know, it's tough. We got a lot of guys coming in trying to jump up in some roles. They've done a great job. I think we've done a great job keeping pucks out of our net 5-on-5. But tonight, like I said, we got to be up the ice more. We got to be up in the forecheck more. We got to get around the net more. Tip some more pucks for our D. Thought they did a good job getting pucks through. We just weren't there enough.
You guys have done a great job through all these injuries. Is it almost too much to ask for it to go night after night like that?
I don't think so. No, I mean, these young guys have been great. They've been working their ass off. bringing a lot of energy, doing a lot of great things. So, so obviously it's a tough league. So, get our bearings here. Enjoy the reset. Be ready for another challenge in Tampa.
Yeah,
good on the guy, man. Good on the guy.
That's
a different sounding Mitch Marner. I don't know why that would come at this particular point, because it's not like he hasn't been around a long time. He's been around a long time. But that sounded like a kind of come full circle Mitch Marner, where he sounded like a leader, and it's just good, honest comments. It wasn't snippy. It wasn't like, you guys hate me, you're trying to push me into a corner type comment. It was just a good, smart, veteran leadership type of comments from Mitch there.
Yeah,
good stuff.
I agree.
That's the one thing that I noticed, and Hayes, you pointed it out earlier. When Mitch seemed to do his media in previous years, we'll call it, he always looked like he was ready to, like for combat type of thing. Mm-hmm. He just looked, comfortable in his own skin talking about a game. And
he always seemed to look, Jamie, like somebody was out, he thought someone was out to get him.
Like defensive. Like we all have been there, where when you're defensive, you got your back up and you're kind of on alert. Like, and Mitch has never been super comfortable in front of the camera. The one thing, though, he knows he's playing well. That's the other thing. He's playing with a ton of confidence. He knows the situation, lays it out. Hey, we're missing half our forwards. We're trying out here. Good on some of the young guys for coming up. But he was just matter of fact. Like, that's as comfortable I've seen him in a scrum from when I don't know. When's the last time you've seen him that comfortable in front of a camera?
Honestly, I don't know. I was somewhat taken aback, and I don't want to make a bigger deal out of it than it necessarily has to be. But I appreciated the last question where, listen, they were 7-1 going into that game last night without Matthews and all these other injuries. Now they're 7-2. They're still leading the division. Like they've been on a really good run, and he was basically throwing a little layup. Hey, what do you expect out of you guys? You know what I mean? Like, you've had so many injuries, and he didn't take that. And he was like, no, we're still here to play. We should be expecting to win. We got to get to the net. We got to play hard. The young guys have been great. The D have been great. Sure, I've been rocking, but I can do more. That's kind of what I took out of that clip. And also very mature. We'll reset, and we'll get ready for another one on Saturday night. And it's just, the hits keep coming, man, because now Bobby McMahon left the game last night, and he's banged up. And, like, in his short NHL career, he's had some injury problems. Like, he's got to stay healthy, man. And you can't control it all the time. But you can't be a guy in the playoffs. He wasn't available. Remember, he couldn't play.
Yeah.
And now he's banged up again. They got all these injuries, and now even if you want to move on from certain players, you're not going to have that ability, because now it looks like McMahon might be out on Saturday night.
Yeah, and hopefully, you cryptically, Berube said we might get some bodies back. I don't know if that's just Matthews maybe, or if that's maybe Domi.
I think Matthews and Knies probably most likely. I think those are the two.
That's probably, if you had to circle, those are the two that you want back, really. No disrespect to everybody else. But, the one thing, I was thinking about this morning. Now, I don't know how you guys feel, but I've always felt like the Leafs the way they've played in years past, they haven't been super physical. There was a speed, a puck possession, circle back, not a lot of danger zone areas. And to me, when the game got tighter and more physical, they weren't used to that. Now they're doing it right from day one, but unfortunately, sometimes that translates to injuries where, you guys are going in the battle. They're taking a hit to make a play. Maybe they're not directly correlated, but I thought to myself, they've really been hit with the injury bug, and a lot of times it's the way you play. If it's straight line hockey, like other teams go through that. We see, a rash of injuries throughout the league every year. I feel like the Leafs playing a certain style might have opened them up to something that they're not used to in previous years. I'm not making excuses,
possible.
But I thought about that.
Listen, it's possible, and this is getting to a point where it's pretty crazy how many injuries they have. Like when McMahon left the game last night, you can run down the list. You're talking upwards of 7 regular forwards out of the lineup.
It's a lot, dude.
That's absurd.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I credit the team, and I know we keep focusing 5-on-5, and that's continued to be a conversation, and that's what led to the conversation with Marner last night. What Mitch was talking about post game was the 5-on-5 stuff, and I think he said bluntly, and he's right. And then he circled back on what they can do to try to alleviate the issues. But he's like, we're missing like half our team here. You know, like there's a lot of guys out, and Florida's a really good team that had been playing poorly. They were waiting at home, and Paul Maurice was breathing down their throats.
Giving it to them the day before. You just knew they were going to come out. And
absolutely.
I don't know. Looking back on it, Hayes, you summed it up. It's like sometimes when you're optimistic about a football pick and you look back on it, you're like, how I must have been crazy not to think that was going to happen.
Right. Exactly.
That's the way you look at that. You would be crazy not to think that was going to happen last night.
Last night, if that's a football game, it would have been Panthers, like
Detroit.
Well, like, let me give you a spread on the game. That would have been like Panthers, like -3.5. And you'd say, man, the Leafs are playing well. I'm going to take the points here. Like, they've been keeping it together. And then, you know, Panthers win by 2 touchdowns. You're like, of course. Like, how did I not see that they were going to find a way to win that game and cover the number? And that's what happened last night. But now if you're the Leafs, Tampa's waiting for you on Saturday, and they're happy to take advantage of you licking your wounds, you know, and they're waiting for you.
Although Tampa plays the day before in Nashville, so it might be the other way. Like the Leafs are waiting for Tampa. I saw that today. I was like, it's rare that you go from in Central America back. They're going to lose an hour, but it's an afternoon game, I do believe. So, you know, in essence, you are going to get Tampa in a back-to-back situation, which could help the Leafs situation. You know,
there you go.
I'd rather Toronto playing Friday instead of Saturday. Sometimes you just get
that
a
extra day
easy.
in Florida.
Very comfortable down there. It's very comfortable.
I'm not saying they're going to take the pick like Odell Beckham Jr. on the yacht with the rest of his mates, but although didn't the Leafs have something like that? They were fishing or something, and then everyone made a big stink about it. They were on the fishing boat or some stupid. Wasn't there a stupid fishing Florida thing?
The only fishing story I remember
for enough years, I believe.
The only fishing story I remember was Phil at the end of the year. Like, remember he was no place I'd rather be.
Yeah, him and Bozy up in Wisconsin or something. Yeah.
People are like, maybe in the playoffs that would help.
Maybe that's when you delete. Like
tough.
he let that stay up on Twitter for a while, and he pulled that one down eventually, and then circled back with, obviously I'd rather be playing in the playoffs. But secondarily,
what was the scenario of him being on the boat with the pick? Did they miss the playoffs and he was fishing?
they had missed the playoffs, and it was, you know, first night of the playoffs or something, you know what I mean? There was a big Game 7 game. Someone was playing within their division, and Phil
he fired out a pic of him fishing, saying nowhere else.
I don't even know if there was a pic attached with it, but it might have been him and Bozak or something. You know, 2 buddies fishing. Nowhere else I'd rather be in the world, or something like that. And Leaf fans, I think appropriately, were delicately giving it to Phil. How about actually playing hockey and being in the playoffs? That might be fun. But
I might be getting it mixed up. I swear. So in my mind, he's like standing there with a fish.
He very well could have. Noodles. I don't remember a picture. I remember the timing of it was crazy though. It was something like Boston Tampa going into overtime, Game 7, and I'm thinking, oh, Phil's live tweeting the game. Like, what a game! Instead, he's just gone, and he's with Bozak. I believe it was Bozak, and that might have been a part of it too. Bozak may have said to him, "Phil, you got it. You're killing me here too, man. I'm picking up on shrapnel here." All right. Speaking of shrapnel, Milli Vanilli Willson is getting hit by a lot of it. Some of the commentary in the group chat is really discouraging and deflating and, quite frankly, embarrassing that I'm hearing from these two guys. Al's brother and I will try to bring some positivity. We have 2 more games today. We'll see what Luke had to say about the game today and how it ended for the Bears. Lions end up winning. What does he see this afternoon? What does he see tonight? And we'll have a pick for the game tomorrow. Ray Ferraro coming up as well, and I have the list. And it was a sickening process to get to the bottom of my top 5 worst trades in Leaf history.
Dude, I told you, it's got to be a 10-pack.
I have so many more. I have honorable mentions, and I'll tell you what was so staggering. This is what
first, let me ask you, where did you dig? Did you just go to LeafsTrades.com?
Yeah, I did something? a lot of it I've already known my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, I've been experiencing
it. You can recite them.
My whole life. I could tell you, I remember where I was based on my dad's reaction to trades when I was a kid. I will tell you a true story later. I will never forget one trade that happened that it was the whole house was on edge because he couldn't believe the Leafs had done it again. I will tell you about it. And that trade, I believe, came in at number 3 on my list. So there were two that were worse in terms of Leafs lore and the way everything played out. But there was one detail I found out that I had never known before that really got to me last night. I was shaking when I came across this information.
I was shaking.
We'll tell you about it later this afternoon. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Ray Ferraro will join us just after 5 o'clock. We'll get his take on Leafs Panthers last night. What the bench would be like if he was on it, if his goalie scored on his own net, which is what we saw last night. That one stung.
I'm glad he won, though.
They won the game. They won the game.
My heart hurt for him. Dude,
if they lose Noodles, his heart hurts for days.
That's the thing. All I kept thinking about is, Tampa was ahead in that game, and then Washington came back. This is something else. I've had some weird things happen to me. This is just a bad angle. He buried that thing.
It's a great goal, man.
And then he fires it over the glass. He could have got a 2-minute penalty for that.
No, that would have been the king daddy. If he fired it over the glass, they gave him an unsportsmanlike misconduct, and then they scored on the power play. Then he would have taken his gear off and left the building.
I love Charlie. He's a Minnesota kid. He said something to me so nice one time. I have such a lot of respect, and I love the kid. And he had a great season last year and pushed through as everyday guy. It's a blooper, but man, he just welcomed himself to being in the top 10 forever, right? Those lists, right? He just made it.
It's just one of those things,
I
man.
never thought of that. That's a top 10.
Immediately.
Kara and Lindsay are doing that forever.
Yep, immediately.
Forever.
Because it's one thing if you put it off, your defenseman skate and it goes in, or something. He buries that empty net. He turns around and just shoots it right in his net.
You guys won't remember this. You might, but Don Cherry used to have these own goals and weird things on Rock'em Sock'em. Gord Dineen scored one short side on Billy Smith off the draw. He went to ringing around the net and he buried it. And Don Cherry, I'll never forget Don Cherry on the Rock'em. Should have had it, Billy, short side, screaming. I was all I could think about when I see own goals, I think of Gord Dineen burying one short side on Billy Smith. But that one was something else. It was a rolling puck. And he swiped that hard, too.
He sure did. He sure did.
Really hard. Oh.
Charlie Lindgren, we'll see what Ray would say if he was on his team because, again, good thing they got the win, so I think you can get after him after the game.
Oh, yeah, big time.
You got to chirp him after the game and have fun with it, and he can laugh about it because they won. But if they lose, everyone's on edge. It's not a Steve Smith scenario. It's not to that, anywhere close to that extent, clearly. But to your point, if Lindgren does that and they lose 3-2, no one says anything. Can't. I don't think you can say anything for at least a couple of days until he wins another game or whatever.
Well, dude, Steve Smith won the Stanley Cup the year after, and Gretzky handed him the cup. If he didn't, if that didn't happen,
Oh, I know. And
they got to exercise the demons there, where it was don't worry, Smitty, about last year. Here's the cup.
You guys probably know him, but it sounds as if he's still uneasy about it. There's no joking around. There's no, hey, remember that? He has no interest in ever revisiting that.
Dude, if I was ever in a circle with a hockey chat and somebody said, hey, remember that, I would run for my life. I would run out the door to my car and go home.
And the crazy thing about it is, if you followed Steve Smith's career, he was an unbelievable defenseman, tough and got points. But that, I'll never forget. You remember how you just said, Hayes, before the break, you'll never forget the moment where your dad, was beside himself on a trade. Mm-hmm. I remember being in my basement and that happening. I was living in Edmonton at the time, and I heard a story. I can't confirm this, but it's kind of known in Edmonton that after the game, Peter Pocklington, the owner, who wasn't well liked, he kind of was, sounds like he was a bad dude, went into the room and was screaming at him, which is awful.
Wow.
That hurt.
That's
hurts.
so greasy.
If that's the case, that's ridiculous.
That is so greasy. That's where you wonder where some of the teammates didn't step in and just grab a guy and just, I don't care that you're the owner. Who the hell are you to be down here yelling and screaming?
Yeah. No,
but
crazy.
Still greasy. Anyway, speaking of goalies that have been in some pretty wild positions, now you find Patrick Waugh, the head coach of the Islanders, and they lost again last night. They're in a bad place.
Ooh.
I have never heard a coach say what he said last night. I've never heard a coach.
I'm glad he did, though, dude. He's like, this is the team Lou gave me, man.
We got to play it.
Okay, go ahead.
We have to play it.
I like it too, but I've never heard a coach. This is, you have to be in the Hall of Fame. You have to have tens of millions in the bank. You have to be able to go back to
You're
Quebec.
Comfortable in your own skin.
You have to be the most comfortable person on earth to say what Patrick Waugh said post-game last night. Let's hear it.
I love these guys. They work hard for me. I mean, every night. I mean, they're there. They're pushing, and then no, it's the team that Lou gave me, and I'm going to work extremely hard for these guys. I mean, and I owe this to the players and to our fans. Make sure that we compete every night. Our fans might be pissed off because we're losing games, but then one thing, we compete every night. And I would love to see the result be on our side instead of being on the losing side.
Wow. Lou handed me this team. What a comment, man. What a comment.
Man.
Like that's one where
else.
I would have to believe
Gets one of them fired.
Yes, and if that was a coach in 1997 in New Jersey, he's already been fired. Would be my assumption. Like the way Lou operates, it would be, don't ever challenge me. Don't challenge the way we operate. You're out. This feels different because of the parties involved. Because let's face it, Lou has not put together a good team. Like Lou Lamoriello, it's not worked out well. They've made some really weird signings, some trades that haven't gone their way, and he's kind of in a position where I think a lot of people in Long Island are waiting for Lou to retire. Quite frankly, like they're kind of waiting for him to pass over the reins.
Somebody can have some balls and tell him to step aside because everyone else has that. Everyone else in the NHL, when they put forth that product, they're not around very long. But when you look at their team and you look at some of the players, like, do you think bringing in Bo Horvat was a bad idea at the time? Pretty good player.
Yeah, pretty good player.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you think him and Barzal up the middle, you're thinking, okay, they got some of those big lefty wingers, and you're like, the goaltender I thought was this stud, and then you look at the total product, and some of the young defensemen, Noah Dobson, and it's like, player. They stink. They stink. But, so it's like,
you're right, but the problem that I have with it is he's so loyal. It's like, here, Pierre Engvall, 7 years. I don't know where that went, but
dude, I would have fired a GM for that signing alone. Like the guy, if you didn't know what the hell was going on with Pierre Engvall and you gave him a 6 or 7 year deal, fireable offense. Like at $3 million, I think.
Yeah, it is. But here's the other thing, though. He's kept that fourth line. He finally had to get away from Clutterbuck, and now Matt Martin's back in the mix. Now, Matt Martin's a fantastic person, great glue guy in the room, tough, all of that type of stuff, but he's loyal to a fault. Like, where it's like, hey, Zach Parise, you don't want to play hockey, but you show up, and, like, to me, at some point, you have to have that business acumen where you cut bait from people and move on. And I can just see, again, I'm not privy to the information, but I can just see there's a power struggle behind the scenes where Patrick Waugh's like, I'm not playing that guy, and Lou's like, you're playing that guy because I just called him up.
It's just like Marty Brodeur in St. Louis. Sometimes you got to just know when to pack it in. Like, sorry, it's been like, it's not good enough. So why does Lou get in a, like, is anyone afraid to say Lou, like, time's up on him? It hasn't been good, and time's passed. So maybe it's time to step away and let somebody else take it over. It's not working.
Yeah.
We'd be saying that about any other person in that situation. Just because it's the scary Lou Lamoriello, people don't have the stones to call it the way it. Like, come on, it's not good enough.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a few things. One, it's his reputation. I think it's respect. A lot of people have a lot of respect for Lou.
I got a lot of respect. I would say it to his face.
Yes,
like,
no,
come
exactly.
on.
And it's the market. You know, I always joke about it. No one cares. Blah blah. The fact is, the Islanders are not a high-profile team, and they're just being lost in the shuffle here. So, like, if Lou was doing this in a Canadian market, it would be incredibly loud. Very loud. It's just not going to be that loud because it's, people in New York are talking about the Jets and the Giants. And if Juan Soto's coming back, no one's yelling about Lou Lamoriello down there. So, it's also kind of a free pass. But I also wonder if Patrick Waugh, is he angling for the GM job? I wouldn't be shocked by that. That's what he did when he was in Quebec. Like he ran the whole operation. He's a coach, but does he want to be coach and GM? Does he want to be GM? Does he want to leave the bench?
You're not being a coach and a GM in
You
today's
can't do it in the
NHL.
modern game. You're right. But that was the belief in Colorado that he ran. He and Joe Sakic didn't see eye to eye because Wall wanted more say in what was going on with the players.
Which I agree with it, though, in a sense. Your GM and coach have to work together. I know the thought process is the coach just coaches the players that the GM hands him. But if you're Patrick Waugh and you're trying to coach a certain way and you want up-tempo, you want speed, you want forecheck, and you keep getting players that are unable to do that, at some point you're like, hey, you want to play a certain way. Like, to me, the coach has to be on the same page. You can't tell me that Craig Berube hasn't told Brad Treliving, I want a certain type of player, or this is what I would envision my D to be like. And Tree goes, great. You know what? I've circled Chris Tanev. I've circled Oliver Ekman-Larsson because I want our D to be big and mean and play hard. And then Chief goes, yeah, that's how I'm going to coach. You have to be on the same page. To me, these comments and some of the moves, there's a disconnect there, and I don't know how that's going to be worked out.
Yes, that is very, very clear at this point. And, now we've hit U.S. Thanksgiving, right? Last week it was only 20 games, but it's only Thanksgiving. But I think the Islanders have clearly determined who they are. And, it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out in the East. And, the Leafs are in a good place. Florida's in a good place. Boston lost last night. They're having issues scoring, but they've been defending better with Sacco down there. Buffalo, my Sabres lost last night. I thought they were going to have a good chance against many. They lost 1-0. I mean, it was a really low-scoring game.
My Sabres
have always been a believer.
Right?
Always been a believer in Buffalo turning the corner this year. But, listen, there's a lot of teams just kind of in the middle trying to figure out who they are. And someone's going to steal a chair or two, man. It's going to happen because they're available. And that middle of the pack is just not that deep. It's not that loaded in terms of talent.
Well, that's what's disappointing about the Islanders, which we just mentioned, of all the years. Like, you don't want to find a way. Like, with that roster that they have, and they can't even be, like, one of the quality teams. Maybe not like a front runner, but – and who knows? But they might squeak out a playoff spot and come back to life because that's what they've done in the past couple of years with Patrick Waugh. They'll get hot for a 10-day segment, and they'll be garbage, and then they might squeak in, they might not. But – to not even be one of those teams that's considered like second tier, just a good team that could get in and cause some havoc, they're not even that.
No, they're not
even that.
They're not.
Yeah, they got to find something there. Like, that's the thing. Like, with the coach coming out and making comments, to me, it's close to it coming to a head. I don't think that goes.
Jamie, have you ever heard a coach say that with like that's the team that he gave me?
No,
I've never heard that, man.
I've heard.
Wild
we talk about it, guys. We talk about it all the time, like paraphrasing. Like we've said, God, that coach just said this. We're paraphrasing. That's cryptic for this. There was no cryptic. He flat out just said that. Like,
I think Bill Parcells came out one time and said, if you want me to make the meal, you got to let me at least get the groceries, something to that effect. Mm-hmm. When he was with the Giants, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys. He said it basically everywhere, Parcells. But I think what makes it even more of a direct shot is that he starts by saying, we are working so hard.
Yeah.
Like we're working so hard.
Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy to say that nobody cares. That's part like everyone does. You work. We all work hard.
I agree, but I think what he's driving at is I'm doing my job. I'm motivating. They're working hard. These guys are trying, but they can't play.
We're just not good.
They're not.
I can't get blood from a stone.
Yeah, they're not good because Lou supplied me with players that can't play, and we don't have enough talent. We don't have enough depth. But they're working hard, and it was a pretty staggering comment from Patrick Waugh. Yet, of all the coaches in the league, and there are a lot of guys with a lot of, they got so much, they got money, they got legacy, all that kind of stuff. But Patrick's always been a guy willing to speak his mind. And I think Patrick Waugh loves Patrick Waugh.
It's the team that Lou gave me, and
he's a believer in Patrick Waugh, and he's going to continue to be.
You know what that sounded like? That sounded like that coach at the World Juniors. What would you like us to do?
A little bit. They're better than us. They skate faster than us.
Like that, because that guy had the broken English. Obviously, Patrick's first language is French, so he's got a little broken English. Like, that sounded exactly like, if you mesh the two, That's exactly what they've.
We played it yesterday, Noodles, because we were building off Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Raiders, saying that it's the best team in the league up against the worst team in the league. He called his team the worst team in the league yesterday. And we played that Swiss coach. We played the whole thing. It was brilliant. We got to do that again today. All right, Luke is coming up. We believe. He may be so bent out of shape that Luke Willson can't come on the show anymore.
I wouldn't blame him.
I'm actually genuinely concerned because he was the one that said, I got to be in on the 4 p.m. hour. I got to get on the 4 p.m. hour. And I think Luke is spiraling out of control in the halls of TSN after that Bears cover this afternoon. So we'll see if we can catch up with Luke. We have Ray coming up. I have my list. We got a lot to get to this afternoon, including a couple of football games we're tracking and the Juan Soto news that probably won't happen on U.S. Thanksgiving. But everyone seems to know exactly where this guy's going, even though there's no necessary news to be locked in yet. So we'll continue to get into that as we move forward as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
If you smell what the
Owen Willson
is cooking.
Smell what Owen Willson is cooking, and it's burnt, it's dry.
Never quit. Never quit.
Never quit. Never quit.
Never quit. Never quit. Come on,
Partsy, listen. Okay, I'll be honest with you right now. Drew Lock is about to cover the spread. I cannot believe what I witnessed from a variety of standpoints. How the Lions choked that cover away and then probably should have lost the game is one thing. Okay, what's more disgusting is Hayes and the scumbag Al's brother on Twitter, like, acting like they had any. Look at that shit-eating grin on Hayes' face right now. It drives me insane. It drives me insane.
Welcome to my life back in week 3, week 4. Do you know how disgusting it is when you're on the wrong side of it? I'm so happy you guys get to experience it. The goofy pro athlete salute, which is just the biggest loser play on TSN
from Mr.
right
TG. Now. But here's what's going to be all time. Drew Lock's going to find a way to cover this. We're going to be right back. We're going to be right back in this thing at +3. And then tonight, when no one in the entire world has the Fins at +3.5, and the Fins lose this thing by 3, and we roll into tomorrow +2, it's a new ball game, and we'll be never
like
quit.
Pete Carroll, Parts.
Right.
You sound like Pete Carroll.
It sounds like Milli Vanilli is what it sounds like.
We need Drew Lock and Tua in the cold right now badly.
Dude, saying we need Tua in the cold, like I lied in bed last night and thought about Tua in the cold, and I'm like, am I insane?
I mean,
is my Partsy insane?
I agree, O-Dog, but here's my thing. If I would have told you that the Bears should win this game, you would have thought I was insane yesterday.
True that.
If it wasn't for Matt Eberflus and Caleb Williams just puking on Ford Field.
Can you explain what happened?
Okay.
So they have a timeout.
Yes, I will give you the rundown of what I suspect happened and what should have happened.
Please do.
So you go, it's 2nd and 20, and I think in their heads they're not making the playoffs. They're going for the win. They want to win in regulation, which I can respect. It's 2nd and 20 now. You've got to be in Caleb Williams' helmet, whoever coach is talking to him, their new OC. Be like, hey, can't take a sack here. Cannot take a sack. We've got a tie, theoretically.
23-20 is the score at this point.
Correct. You're down 3. You cannot take a sack. End of discussion. Sack comes. Boom. There's 33 seconds on the clock, and this is why it's almost like shooting a basketball or, and you're like, oh, I don't want to, shoot it too far, but I don't want to shoot it, too close, and you kind of end up just like, oh, I just short-arm that and mess the whole thing up. Okay, or throwing a baseball might be better, where you're, feeling it out. You either call the timeout right there, and now you go into we're playing for the tie mode. And what I would say now, and I think that was a smarter play, is yes, it's 3rd and a mile, but you're 7 or 8 yards away from a field goal. So we're going to run something quick. You've got 33 seconds, and your field goal unit, which we used to call Mayday, you're on the sideline, Mayday ready, needs 17 seconds. That was the number, and again, what I'm trying to say here by the details is that good football teams know these numbers. I remember them because they drilled them into our brains in case we were ever in this situation. 17 seconds for Mayday. That means, and on the field guys need to know that too, we're in a Mayday situation. We're going to catch this ball in bounds. The clock's going to run. We don't have timeouts. Everybody on this team is going to be screaming Mayday. Everybody on the sideline. The field goal unit would run directly to the ball. Anybody who's not on it, so wide receivers mainly, you're going to go outside, like basically get the hell out of everybody's way, fastest way off to the sideline. Full sprint if you have to. 17 seconds is the number. That should give the kicker plenty of time to space it out. Ball snap, kick, we go to overtime. So that's option 1, which they clearly didn't take. Option 2, okay, is save the timeout, which I don't hate, I don't love, but okay, if that's the way you want to go. But you still need to get back into field goal range. The thing about it is you can now at least do a longer developing play if that's what you think will work in this situation, and then you use your timeout with 1 second left. What you can't do is take the sack, don't call the timeout, be slow as molasses coming back to the ball. Then, and if you watch it, I don't know if we can get the last play of the game up. What's crazy to me is that there's 2 outs, 1 to Cole Kmet. They've got a hook on the outside. I believe they have a speed out the other way, all of which are open, all of which gets them into field goal range, and they have a timeout. But Caleb says, okay, let's go for the win, and takes a brutal shot down the field. So it's like compounding mistakes. Compound. If you're at that point on 3rd and 30 with 20 seconds left or 33 plus the clock's running, you have to play for the tie. Mm-hmm. You're not in Hail Mary mode. Get 7 yards, call the timeout. No, we're not going to do it.
Mandatory.
We're not going to do it.
Mandatory. Oh, no. You got to let it breathe a little bit. Like, he's fired up. You're talking football. And look who joins us.
Look at this. Look at these dummies.
Look at
these
guy.
dummies.
It is embarrassing.
Al's
It's one thing
brother.
to lose a game, but when you look at those 2 faces and think that they outsmarted you somehow, it makes you want to vomit.
Noodles!
Look at Noodles.
Noodles is coming over to the
Noodles is doing it.
No, hold on. I was like, I don't even know how they do it. Like, I'm
There
like,
it is.
Just
Athleticism.
like that, Noodles.
Yeah, no,
Just
no.
like
Athleticism.
that.
That's how you do it.
I'm staying neutral, but I do sense some confidence. From,
we're uber confident. Like TG was screaming Bears
How
on that pick.
TG was not screaming Bears. You said on the show yesterday you were leaning Lions. Okay, in the middle of the first half, you're texting us like this is a joke. I don't think I've ever seen.
Rope-a-doping you.
Yeah,
Rope-a-dope.
for sure, Al's brother.
Rope-a-dope. Al's brother.
The
what were your
idea that
thoughts?
the Lions blew that
was scary.
beyond
Like
me.
the first half, like I got the text chain going. It should have been 21-0, basically immediately. That first half was insane. Like the Bears, Jim Nantz said with 30 seconds to go in the third quarter, they were taking a snap inside the red zone for the first time. The Bears, it was on the 19, and it was the first time they were taking a snap inside the red zone. 30 seconds to go in the third quarter, and somehow the Bears pulled off a miraculous cover. I don't know what it is, Al's brother. There's something about you and I and the way we're seeing the board, and these guys they're seeing ghosts, man. It's Sam Darnold with the Jets. That's where these two are at.
I would love to see the underpants cam of these guys right now. Like, there's a 30-pound butterball sitting in their trousers.
I disagree.
Like, that's guaranteed.
Listen, I will be more
Did you
worried
see the
based
text
on these
chain?
next 2
Odog
games.
said the season's over. He thinks it's done.
I was
dark place.
It was a moment of weakness. It was a
Rope-a-dope.
moment of weakness. I was kind of rattled. You stole some of my picks and resent them, and you're using my material. It was just a complete moment of weakness. A complete moment of weakness.
So funny.
We got to regroup, though. We got to regroup. We got
Hold
to
on.
regroup.
We need Drew Lock to cover this. We get Drew Lock. Tua will lose by 3 tonight, and we'll be +2. These guys will probably take Desmond Ridder tomorrow against Patrick Mahomes because that's TG, and we'll go from there.
I think it is. I mean, there's still some
Aiden
uncertainty.
O'Connell.
I think it's
Aiden O'Connell.
All right, so the game tomorrow is at 3 o'clock, so we have to make this pick right now. And on FanDuel, I believe, Doogie, is it still 13?
Doogie's a scumbag, by the way.
Oh, it's
I'm
down
done
to
with this
12 and
guy.
a half.
12 and a half.
Bet down to 12 and a half.
Very
Chiefs,
conveniently, 12 and a half.
Chiefs are laying 12 and a half at home against what Antonio Pierce would suggest is the worst team in football, the Las Vegas Raiders. Al's brother, take the floor. Give me some tremendous information.
Yeah, look, Hazy B, this number's insane. Like, Kansas City has beaten anyone by more than 13 points this year. They've failed to cover in 5 straight games, all of them ending within 1 score. That being said, if there was ever a time for Kansas City to ship up and shape up and right this thing, it is at home on a holiday against the pathetic Las Vegas Raiders. This team is awful. They've given up the 4th most points per game this season. They were allowing 34 points a game over their last 3. And look, this offense hasn't looked great for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but they're getting Isaiah Pacheco back. I think that gives them a spark, and all they have to do is put up 30 or so points, which is what, on average, regular teams are scoring on this Raiders team. I don't think that Aiden O'Connell and whoever the heck is going to be in that offense is going to be able to compete and put up 17 points. I just don't see it happening. So I think we got to lay the big number here.
That scared him.
I didn't want to hear that
That
phrase,
scared him.
man. That phrase scares me a little bit, man. I got PTSD.
Take him then. Take him at 12.5.
It's a big spread, man. And like literally they went into Carolina and won by a field goal last week. The Chiefs are not blowing out anybody, but this Raiders team is horrendous. They are horrendous, and I think the Chiefs defense cooks. I don't think they like the way everything played out last week. I think that defense and Spags absolutely put the Raiders in a blender.
Are you taking them or not?
Laying the points, lock it in, Chiefs minus 12.5. We are taking the Kansas City Chiefs at home. I think they blow these clowns out 41-10, and we are absolutely moonwalking.
Partsy, good news. Giants just went for on 4th and 1, got about 9. They're about to get into the fringe right now, into field goal range. Okay. I actually don't mind this. 12.5 points. You saw what happened today.
Massive spread.
Drew Lock covers this, Partsy, and we make the call of the year, and this season is back to being right down to the wire. I like Aiden O'Connell on a greasy
I'll
back
end it
door.
with this. I'll end it with this. If Tua's brutal in the first half, I am sending out a group FaceTime.
I'll be answering this one.
I will be sending out the 4-pack FaceTime, and you guys better be ready.
Al's brother and I will be ready.
We'll be ready. You know why? Because the Finns are frauds, and so is Owen Willson.
Yes, we'll leave it there. TG for life, my friend.
We'll
Great
see.
chatting with you.
We'll see. Let's go, Drew Lock. One game at a time,
in the group chat tonight. Go Cowboys, go Packers, go Chiefs. There's Luke Willson and Al's brother. Hour 2 up next. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.